everyone. Welcome to our very first episode of Gospel X. I am Jonathan Chan, and this is my friend here, Henry.
Hello.
And we'll be talking about the very first episode of X-Men: The Animated Series. Now, this animated series started in 1992, before some of you might have been born. So that's okay. If you were interested in the episode or want to watch it, just feel free to YouTube it or Google it. You'll find it there. Episode 1 is entitled The Night of the Sentinels, and we'll be going over one particular scene in that episode. So before we go on, we actually recorded the clip for you, so we'll show it to you right now, and then we'll come back to continue our discussion.
We've been together for a long time, and I strongly believe, as you do, in the peaceful coexistence between humans and mutants. But when you formed the X-Men, was it not to teach us to use our powers to benefit mankind? So ordinary people would learn not to fear us? Professor, aren't we?
I know what you're going to say, Cyclops, but I'm afraid we have no...
For those of you who just recently watched our recording of that particular scene, so what do you think, Henry? Like, after watching this scene, what popped out in your mind?
And first of all, the main question I want to ask is, what is the Christian perspective on defending yourself? Yeah, what if we're the oppressed, right? All right. Let me give you an example. You know what? The Israelites were oppressed in Egypt before Moses came and basically rose up and freed them all. That's a very clear-cut story. The Israelites were oppressed. The Egyptians were the oppressors, and they rose up against the oppressors. Well, actually, they rose up against the oppressors and they left and basically disobeyed the oppressors. They could have just stood there and taken it, but they didn't anymore.
Right.
So in that regards, was that the right thing to do? We're looking at the scene, and the X-Men go and fight. They go and do this raid. They end up losing one of their members. Sort of. Sort of. Yeah. But, yeah, so what do you think about that? Like, how in the story, it doesn't seem like, they were holding up the Egyptians' prosperity or to do it in a way that, upholds human dignity. And all the Egyptians end up losing their firstborns, right?
But there were many chances, though. Like, Pharaoh had many opportunities ever since even just when the locust came, he should have took the hint, right? And when the frogs came, he should have took a double hint.
Right? What about all the collateral damage? Like in that scene, it's that animated series, it's PG-13, they're shooting laser guns and no one's actually dying when they get shot and all that. But if there was actual mutants and an actual raid, you can see that people are going to get hurt.
Like Logan?
Yeah. Logan, if it was rated R, that security guard is not going to go. Yeah, he's toast. He's gone, Mm-hmm. He had an arm cut off or something.
So basically, was Pharaoh's actions, was the death of other innocent Egyptians justifiable because of one man's stubbornness?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like in the TV show, the security guard doesn't care. He's just doing his job, right? Yeah, he's getting a salary, defend this place. He doesn't really care about the policies of their organization and such. Like the Egyptians, if they had to choose between continuing on all the suffering or just letting them go, they probably would have just said let them go.
And the security guards are fully aware of what they're doing inside, right? Like they know, right? We see in the movies, that when you're associated with something, you pretty much know what they're doing. You can't play the ignorance card and say, "Oh, you're killing me! I'm just an innocent man. I'm just an innocent bystander," right? You can't do that. We've seen too many movies already that you and I, if we're in the audience, no, you're part of the deal. You knew what was going on, and you deserved it too, right? So we can't say that the security guard's an innocent bystander because he's also associated with that problem. And so as Christians, we too This like, okay, let's flip it. Like, if we're part of the oppressors, we too have to like change things. If we're in that organization that, let's say, with that company that we know full well that is actually promoting something that oppresses people or hurts people, we should stop it. We should find ways to stop it, right? And we should rise up and do that civil disobedience against our companies. At the risk of, like Martin Luther would say, we would, whenever we do that, we have to also remind ourselves that, hey, with civil disobedience comes suffering. And we need to be ready to suffer as well for that cause, and that because there will be many consequences of our actions when we fight for justice.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? Let's just wrap this up.
Right.
Let's just say, hey, you know what? Give me the bottom line: civil disobedience, good or bad.
Right. Okay. So basically, I'm going to bring up what recently down in the States they celebrated Martin Luther King Day, and I think many articles quoted his speech, and I think one of the best quotes was this: "Unjust law is no law at all. However, laws are there to," he could also say, laws are there to promote human personality. If it doesn't, we are called to go against that law and correct it so that it promotes human personality and flourishing. Now, on that note, that he says it also determines and gives us discernment and gives us the constraints on what actions we are allowed to take. Is it violence? No, because that does not promote human personality. However, if it's civil disobedience like protests and stuff like that, yes, but also we have to be aware of the consequences. We have to make sure when we go against the government and have civil disobedience and perform it, we have to also calculate it and strategize. What are the ends that we want to achieve? What are the means that we're going to do? Does it promote overall human flourishing? If it doesn't, if it discriminates, if it goes against others, if it puts other people in constraint and prevents their freedoms of flourishing, then it might not be a good thing to do. Right? And maybe we should come back and evaluate what our beliefs are and how we should use things. I think what's wrong with that episode of the X-Men is that Xavier did not consult. It's like immediately he just decided, let's raid.
He didn't go to the cops or anything.
He didn't even go to the government.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't even talk to the government until episode 8. Right? Like, he didn't even go to the government to actually pick up the phone and say, hey, look, what are you doing, right?
Okay, why would you even watch it?
Exactly.
Pick up the phone and talk to people.
Yeah,
right?
So one of the biggest things about that I read in Christianity Today is that when we do want to go into civil disobedience and when we want to do that, we have to do it in community. We have to double check our motives. We have to double check our reasonings. Heck, we have to double check our readings of the Bible, making sure that we're actually, okay, are we really right on this? Or are we still unsure? And then we move forward with it. But if we move forward, we as a community have to face the consequences. We have to be prepared for the suffering.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, that's it. This is our very first episode. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for bearing with us throughout this whole conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. In 2 weeks' time, we'll go and hit into episode number 2.
Yeah.
Part 2 of the Night of the Sentinels.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us. And till next time, have a blessed weekend. And hope to see you in 2 weeks.